Peace, Love, Liberty Radio version 4.0. Prepare for launch.
OTC is go.
Ancaps is go.
PTC is go.
LPS is go.
Houston flight is go.
Molotov.
STM is go.
Safety comms is go.
STU is go.
LRD is go.
SRO is go.
CDI is go.
Launch Director, NTD, our launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
99, proceeded, 3, 2, 1, ignition. Right away, Houston.
Consequences so severe, so pull your trigger quickly, dear. Our patriots are acting up, let's punish them with fear. Hey, hey!
Hey, welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, and this is Wednesday, which means it's the Ask Me Anything episode of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. It's where I answer your questions. And, you know, the questions that I have this week are actually the type of questions that I was hoping that I would get every week when I started doing the AMA a couple of years ago. So let me jump into the Ask Me Anything. First question is actually a two-parter with a preface. It begins, started listening to your show a few weeks ago, and I've been enjoying it. I'm more of on the minarchist side of things, but it's been good hearing ANCAP voluntarist perspective. I wanted to ask how you make a living from liberty-related activities like your show. Do you have a day job as well? What can people like myself do if they're interested in libertarian ideals, but they can't afford to quit their job? So there's really a lot in this question. So to answer the first question first, do I still have a day job? Kind of. I don't have a W-2 job, if that's what you're asking, but I do have sort of a contracted job where I do affiliate relations for Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live being a nationally syndicated radio show on about 170 radio stations across the coast, plus Guam, because Guam's technically not in the, between the coast and the coast. When people think, coast to coast, they don't think Alaska or Hawaii either. They think, like from New York to California and Oregon and Washington. But they don't think about, like Hawaii, which is part of the U.S. and has coast as well. And Guam, obviously, island nation in the middle of the Pacific, that Congressman Hank Johnson from Atlanta is actually concerned may capsize and flip over. I wish I were making that up, but he actually said that during a congressional hearing of some sort about, like, expanding a military base on Guam. He said his concern is that the island will capsize and flip over, thus killing everybody in Guam. But I digress. So, yes, I do affiliate relations for Free Talk Live, and I also have the publishing company Free Press Publications that I've been running for a little over 7 years now. And that, has always been something that sort of supplements my main source of income. I would love for Free Press Publications to wind up being a completely self-sustaining thing. But at this point, it supplements, gives me a couple $100 extra every month. And the vast majority of that comes from book sales, to where I publish books. There's original content books as well as a lot of stuff that's in the public domain that I have republished, and the vast majority of the income from book sales comes from that public domain stuff. And I've been expanding the public domain selection that I have available a good bit over the last couple of years, and hope to continue doing that. Now that I'm no longer running for president, I will have more time to go through and actually get books ready for publication. And the most recent book that wound up getting released was the book Lysistrata. That it's a Greek play about the time during the Peloponnesian War, I believe it was, where this woman, Lysistrata, had the idea to sort of encourage men to stop fighting by withholding sexual favors. And in the book, it worked. But I've heard people say that, like in real life, that would not work because the men would then just, turn to other men and, who knows. But honestly, I think that Lysistrata does not go far enough. And yes, I realize that I'm going way off on a tangent here, but I honestly believe that Lysistrata, while good intention, does not go far enough. It's not enough to simply, withhold favors and intimacy from the warmongers, but really the ones that are seeking peace and trying to make the world a more peaceful place should actually wind up being rewarded. At least that's how I view things. And, send me hate mail if you want of, Darryl's a jackass at fppradio.com. But, that's how I view things. But I digress and continue answering your questions. The second part here is, what can people like myself do if they're interested in libertarian ideas? Although I realize that I didn't necessarily finish answering the entire, how do you make money? So, yes, there's affiliate relations that I do for Free Talk Live. There's the publishing company, Free Press Publications. And I do have some ad sales that I do through FPP and FPP Radio, but the vast majority of that is basically covering expenses, and at the end of the day, I might have a little bit of money that I see as profit, but it's not necessarily enough to where I can be like, woohoo, let's go buy a steak dinner. It's more like, all right, cool, I've got enough to cover like a meal at the pizza place. But then there's also the lobbying firm that I just opened where I'm trying to crowdfund a lobbyist. Basically what I'm trying to do, because I've already over the past several years living in New Hampshire on regular occasions gone to the state house to testify on legislation, I regularly reach out to state reps trying to find people to sponsor bills that I'm interested in to further liberty, to expand ballot access, to, expand freedom of information, to expand freedom of association, right to know, stuff along those lines. But I'm trying to basically, cover my expenses to where when I go to the state house, I take a day off work, and then I'm left, basically in a negative. I'm trying to make it to where I don't have to then decide, do I go to the state house or do I make calls for Free Talk Live? So there's that as well. I'll continue the question next.
Are you sick of government lackeys who say you didn't build that? Are you tired of elitists who think you need a government permission slip for everything? Everything you do is an A to B conversation, and the government should see their way out of it. Create true free markets by adopting the BIPCOT No Government License. The BIPCOT No Gov license allows use or modification of any product, service, or software except by governments or government agents. Go to bipcot.org. That's Bravo, India, Papa, Charlie, Oscar, Tango.org.
Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com.
Hi, I'm the Rebel Mistress.
And this is Rob Mathias, host of The Rebel Love Show.
And you're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
With Darryl W. Perry.
Speaking of advertisers, one of them I know will be ever so grateful if you give a call to, and you will be ever so grateful that you have called. I am speaking of Roberts and Roberts Brokerage. Since 1977, for nearly 40 years, people have been calling on Roberts and Roberts Brokerage for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. Roberts and Roberts now takes Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Give them a call today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit them online at rrbi.co. And if you've not looked at the price of gold or silver lately, well, I definitely encourage you to do so, because silver currently is over $20 per ounce. I spoke with Tim Fry, the proprietor of Roberts & Roberts, a couple of weeks ago, because I heard him say that he thinks that silver might hit $20 before the end of the year. Well, it's at $20 right now. I personally would not be surprised if it hits $25 or $30 by the end of the year. But again, this is not investment advice. I'm just letting you know that if you want to get some gold or silver, gold currently hovering around $1,365 per ounce. But if you want to get your hands on some gold and silver, definitely reach out to Tim Fry over there at Roberts & Roberts, rrbi.co, or give a call, 800-874-9760. So the second part of the question here, and I'm still on the first of three questions. Second part of the first question, what can people like myself do if they're interested in libertarian ideas but can't afford to quit their job? Well, what I would suggest is find an investment opportunity. Find some kind of a small startup that you could do part-time. I know a lot of people will drive for Uber to supplement their income. People will make crafts and sell them online on websites like Etsy. People will rummage through garage sales, go to estate sales, try to find some stuff very cheaply, and then resell it either on eBay or find flea market is not the right term, although that's what most people know them of. But like an indoor flea market, a consignment shop sort of thing. And those are some of the easier things. You can also get involved with something akin to a multi-level marketing. And I know that multi-level marketing has a lot of negative connotations, but there are some of them that are better than others. Some of them where there are actually products being sold, like Alpha International. To learn more about that one, you can go to alpha.fppradio.com, where they sell a product of medicinal mushrooms. No, not that kind of mushroom. There's actually a Chinese mushroom called lingji, and they have put these mushrooms in capsules and in tea and in coffee, and you wind up getting the healing benefits of the mushroom that way. And then there's a lot of other things. I know a lot of people that sell essential oils through doTERRA, but that market seems to pretty much be covered, so it's not something where there's a lot of growth potential. But something like Alpha, where they're fairly new into the United States, there's still a lot of potential for making some decent money, I believe, anyway. So that's what I would suggest, because it's very, very difficult to get paid to be an activist. I know a couple of people that are successful at it, but even those people wind up having like a physical business that they run. And, so there's the statement of, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. But I will tell you that I absolutely love what I do, but I am doing something work-related from about the time I wake up until the time I go to bed, unless I'm at the gym or unless I'm, at the bar playing trivia. And, yeah, that's how I relax, is by stimulating my brain by answering questions to prove that I'm smarter than other people at the bar. That's my relaxation. Well, that and watching Game of Thrones and pro wrestling. But I digress. And hopefully I answered the question there. Let me now jump to the next question that we have. What percentage of members of the Libertarian Party do you believe are small L libertarians? What percentage do you believe are anarcho-capitalist? And, this is one of those questions to where no matter what answer I give, it's pure speculation. And no matter what answer anybody gives to this, it is going to be pure speculation. But I can speculate based on, and again, this is sort of, self-selected members of the party, if you will, based on the delegates that were at the National Convention a couple of weeks ago and based on vote totals that different candidates received, I would say that, hardcore libertarian, and when I say, hardcore libertarian, I'm not necessarily meaning members of the Radical Caucus. I'm not meaning, people that are a 100-100 on the Nolan chart. And if you're not familiar with the Nolan chart, I will post a link in the show notes to where you can take not the world's smallest political quiz, because that one is a little skewed to get people to land in the libertarian quadrant. But I will post a link over to what I believe to be a better political map questionnaire called Quiz 2D, where they still use the Nolan chart. And it's that diamond shape thing to where libertarians at the top, authoritarians at the bottom, conservative on the right, liberal on the left, and then centrist in the middle. I believe Quiz 2D is a better quiz because it gives a lot more options other than I agree, I disagree, I'm not sure. It's I agree because or I disagree because, and there's a couple of options on each of those. But when I say hardcore libertarian, I'm saying people that are like 90-90. Meaning, you're 90% there at least on the Nolan chart. And I would say that probably about a third. But again, this is based on the people that were at the National Convention and based on conversations that I had with people. And I'll explain the answer a little bit more, as well as answering the second part of that question here in moments on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. In 2115 New England, there are no borders, no states, and no regulations, yet never has a more peaceful and prosperous place existed. But Mr. Drake's security company has seen better days. Faced with the prospect of waning power, Mr. Drake intends to replace the anarchy of New England with a government. But at what cost? Will anybody care? And can anyone stop him? Anarchy in New England by Joe Jarvis is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry, online at fppradio.com.
Speaking of libertarians and hardcore libertarians, chances are, if you're listening to this show, you are a libertarian. And chances are you're fed up with the government running every aspect of your life. But what are the chances that you're listening to the Lava Flow podcast? If you're not, what's wrong with you? Go right now to thelavaflow.com/listen. The Lava Flow podcast, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Subscribe today using any podcatcher at thelavaflow.com/listen. Or just go back to sucking up to the government. The Lava Flow podcast, striking the root every episode. So, let me sort of explain how I came to my conclusion of about a third of the people in the Libertarian Party, or what I would consider to be small L libertarians. That is within, like that 90-90. And I realize that, the Nolan chart considers anything over like a 70-70 to be libertarian, but I think that's a little too generous. And there's some people that will say, like, I lean libertarian, but then they, basically vote and act like Republicans or vote and act like Democrats. So when I call someone a libertarian, I'm having a slightly smaller libertarian quadrant on the Nolan chart. And I would say that pretty much anybody that's about 85 on the Nolan chart most likely actually, probably a libertarian, but some people agree for the wrong reasons. And libertarianism is based on the philosophy of libertarian. A libertarian is someone who agrees with libertarian philosophy, which is that you own yourself, self-ownership. You don't have the right to, interfere with anybody else. So you do not agree with the initiation of force for political or social means, which, if you take that to its logical conclusion, you cannot believe that government should exist, or at least that coercive government should exist. So, again, when I talk about libertarian, I'm talking about people that take the philosophy of libertarianism to its logical conclusion. And that would include not just anarchists, but also voluntarists, people that believe, well, yeah, you can form a voluntary government. And I would say that, the people in that are probably about a third. Probably. And I'm basing that partly on the vote totals that I received in the presidential election, the vote totals John McAfee received, the vote totals that Mark Feldman received. Not that I necessarily consider Mark Feldman to be, a hardcore libertarian. Certainly, we agreed on about 90+% of the stuff. So he's probably there, or he was before he passed away, I think. But then there were also, some people that I think were actually libertarians, but they were more willing to want somebody able to deliver what they called a softer message. Somebody that would, water down the philosophy in order to grow the party. And my question is, but at what expense? If you're growing the party, but people don't actually understand what the party stands for, then are you really accomplishing anything? And I think that some of those people are very good intentioned, but as they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So I honestly believe that it's no more than about a third of the people that are actually libertarians. And then you've got a large chunk of people that are objectivist, and you've got a large group of people that are, like disgruntled conservatives that like some aspects of libertarianism. And the next part of the question here is, what percentage do you believe are anarcho-capitalist? I really have no clue. I honestly don't care. Not to, downplay the question, but I don't consider myself an anarcho-capitalist because I hate the term capitalism. Because the original meaning of the term, and I don't care how many people try to, change the definition, but the original meaning of the term was a regulated economy in which the means of production are privately held. I like having the means of production be privately held. I don't like the regulated economy part of it. But there are some people that say, well, Rothbard says it means blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, so Rothbard also said some other stuff that was absolutely ridiculous. Somebody may have said that the moon was made of cheese. It doesn't make it accurate just because they also said a lot of other smart stuff. So, the percentage of people that call themselves anarcho-capitalist is probably in the single digits of percentage, if not, most likely under 5. But again, it really doesn't matter because I'm willing to work with the voluntarist. I'm even willing to work with the minarchist as long as they acknowledge that I want to go just a little bit further. Where I sway is the people that say, well, no, I'm not going to work with you because you want more than what I do. Or we should not advocate for maximum freedom because that might scare grandma. So that's where I come at the whole, voluntarist, ANCAP, ANCOM, whatever, anarcho, whatever it is. As long as you're willing to work with me and not force me to, do whatever your particular brand of anarcho whatever-ism is, cool, let's work together. But once you start, trying to tell me that I'm wrong because I want it done slightly different, well, all right, guess we're not going to be part of a coalition, are we? Final question, is anarchy realistic? And this is one where we really need to define terms. And, I'm not going to define the term realistic, but I will define the term anarchy because it has a very specific definition And some people wind up thinking that anarchy is nihilism. No, it's not. But I'll define anarchy and tell you if it's realistic here in the closing moments of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. It's the Wednesday Ask Me Anything edition.
Why do they hate us? Is libertarianism compatible with Islam? Davi Barker answers these questions and more in Voluntary Islam and Other Essays. He advances the voluntarist cause with analysis of the confluence of values between Islam and libertarianism, as well as contemporary movements from the Tea Party to the Arab Spring. Voluntary Islam by Davi Barker is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, Spendabit, and Amazon at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry. Online at fppradio.com.
Hey! Is anarchy realistic, Darryl? Huh? Is it? Can you define anarchy? And this is something that a lot of people, they will use a term or they'll hear a term, and they might even Google a term. I just Googled define anarchy. And it says a state of disorder. But that's not what anarchy is. No. Anarchy comes from the Greek. An, meaning without, or no. Archos, meaning rulers. So anarchy means without rulers, or no rulers. And on the one hand, I look at that definition and say, no, absolutely not. Anarchy is not realistic. Because true anarchists, true libertarians, believe that you rule yourself. You are your own ruler, which would mean that you would want to use a term like autarchy. But that sounds absolutely horrible because people have heard about, like autocrats or something to where it's like one person ruling an entire country. So on the one hand, no, anarchy is not realistic because you should rule yourself. You should be in charge of yourself. Something that is realistic is anti-archy, being opposed to coercive rulers. Voluntarism is realistic. Voluntarism, of course, being the concept that all human interaction should be completely voluntary. That is realistic. But actual anarchy to where no one is in charge, not even you being in charge of yourself, no, not very realistic. And it's one of the reasons that I don't really use the term anarchist to describe myself. Certainly if somebody says, oh, Darryl's an anarchist, I'm not going to, go on this long tirade explaining why I don't call myself an anarchist. I have used the term anarcho-libertarian before. I have used the term anti-archist, and I, like I say, I prefer the term voluntarist because I do believe that all human interaction should be completely voluntary. That includes, the right to either do business or not do business with whomever you choose. It includes the right to decide that you don't want to sell somebody a cake. It means that you have the right to decide that you don't want to do business with the guy that decides he doesn't want to sell cakes to your next door neighbor for whatever reason. All human interaction should be completely voluntary. And every Wednesday, I will answer your questions. So send those over, ama@fppradio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copyheart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas, which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. Love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.